Singapore's vaccine booster program gets underway with seniors receiving their third shot. Migrant workers leave their dorms for the first time since April last year with a visit to Little India. And job vacancies jump to a record high with more open positions than people to fill them. You're watching The Big Story live in the Straits Times newsroom. I'm Olivia Quay. You can subscribe to the Straits Times channel so you never miss a single episode. More than 100 seniors got their COVID-19 vaccine booster shot today, with Singapore kicking off that stage in the vaccination drive. And over the next few days, a total of 140,000 seniors would have been invited to make their appointments to receive either the Pfizer or Moderna booster at centres like CC here, which my Straits Times colleagues visited this morning. Seniors whom they spoke to said they understand the importance of getting vaccinated to lower their risk of falling seriously ill. The Agency for Integrated Care and Health Minister Ong Ye Kung urging all seniors, vaccinated and unvaccinated, as well as those living with them, to minimise their social interactions for the next 2 weeks amid a spike in daily case numbers. After being owed salaries for nearly 3 months, 15 workers and nurses based at the Bukit Timah CC Vaccination Centre will be paid for their services but not by their employer. Instead, Parkway Shenton, which runs the centre, will be providing a goodwill payment. That's according to NTUC Secretary General Ng Chee Meng today, who also condemned the errant employer in a Facebook post. Parkway Shenton's action is despite it already paying the subcontractor Singapore Ambulance Association. Meanwhile, 2 men linked to the ambulance provider will have their work pass privileges suspended for not paying 54 workers at the Bukit Timah Vaccination Centre. After months of delay, migrant workers can finally leave their dormitory for their first community visit to Little India. A batch of workers left this morning from Westlight Mandai Dorm, which has recorded 0 COVID-19 cases in the last 2 weeks and has at least a 90% vaccination rate. Multimedia journalist Dylan Ang has more.
Stepping off the bus onto the street, the first group of fully vaccinated migrant workers allowed out of their dormitory and back into the community for the first time since April last year. Little India is the first location that migrant workers are allowed to visit as part of a pilot scheme. The first stop for these guys, the Sri Virama Kaliamman temple.
My temple coming time, I am mind relax. My problem, my family problem, anybody, I am pray. Anybody is already.
There's definitely a buzz in the air that's been missing for well over a year. Now, visits to Little India will take place on Wednesdays, Saturdays and Sundays for 2 time slots each day, 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon. For several hours, these migrant workers will be allowed to pursue their own activities, and they are choosing to spend their time differently. Some say they look forward to dining out with their friends, while others would rather use their time to do a bit of shopping.
I feel so excited because after the long time I come out from the dormitory to enjoy with my friends and pray the temple and can eating with the hotel restaurants. So I'm so happy to come here. Before I come out, I have to do ART, wear the mask and only follow the safe distance. Yeah, it's worth it, totally worth, because we can enjoy here, right?
Really very happy, sir, because before 18 months I cannot come here, Little India. So now really very happy to come this moment. Now my friend only Sunday only coming, weekday is working, Sunday only meet Little India week. So we try to meet, maybe next week we try to meet my friends, my relative person.
For now, this is a pilot scheme which will be evaluated after a month to see how it can be expanded in scope and scale to include more locations. Dylan Ang for the Straits Times.
Last night, job vacancies hit an all-time high in June. Resident Unemployment continued to ease, but retrenchments rose slightly. Well, more on this later, but last night the Health Ministry reported a new cluster with 10 cases at All Saints Home in Jurong East, and with visits not allowed until October the 11th, the home is facilitating communication between residents and their family members through phone and video calls. The same is being done at Rensi Nursing Home. Well, here's a quick look at other growing clusters. 20 cases were added last night to the 11 Tuas Avenue 10 dormitory, bringing the total to 21. Meanwhile, Avery Lodge Dorm saw 16 more cases. It now has 82. And Chinatown Complex logged an additional 15 cases and now stands at 126. Job vacancies hit an all-time high in June. Resident unemployment continued to ease, but retrenchments rose slightly. The Manpower Ministry's second quarter labour market report revealing an uneven performance across sectors. While a record high of 92,100 vacancies in June means there were 163 job openings for every 100 unemployed people. Unemployment rates continued their downward trend at 3.7% for citizens and 3.5% for residents. Retrenchments increased slightly to 2,340, 70 more than in the first quarter. To discuss the jobs market situation, I'm happy to welcome OCBC Bank's Chief Economist, Selena Ling. She's also Head of Treasury Research and Strategy. Welcome back to the show, Selena. So help us paint a picture first. A record high in jobs vacancies, easing resident unemployment, but a slight increase in retrenchment. So how do these separate numbers make sense together in Singapore's current jobs landscape?
Well, actually, there are different factors driving the retrenchment rate and also the job vacancies. The retrenchment rate, I think, picked up mainly because of the phase 2 heightened alert conditions, where actually the COVID restrictions did hit certain sectors like the F&B and the retail sector a little bit more. So we could probably see a little bit more displacement of the workers in those sectors. But if you look across to the other sectors like construction and manufacturing, for instance, I think for those, they are really facing a foreign manpower crunch because the borders remain closed and hence they are unable to substitute with local labor. And then on the flip side, you also have certain growth industries like finance and insurance, professional services, and also education and health that continue to be looking to hire more workers because they want to capitalize on the growth opportunities. So that's why you have the unemployment and also the retrenchment numbers going two different ways.
The high number of jobs vacancies in Q2 was mainly owed to border restrictions and manpower demand in growth sectors. Selena, given that border restrictions have hardly eased since then, what's your outlook for this job vacancy number in the third quarter?
Well, I suspect that the job vacancy number will not subside very much in the third quarter, like you rightly mentioned, because the borders remain closed. So it's quite challenging to actually get the foreign manpower in. I think in particular for sectors like construction and maybe even certain sectors within manufacturing itself, there may not be a one-for-one substitution with local labor because it will be quite challenging to find the local workers to fill some of these job roles. I think it's a much easier proposition if it's for white-collar workers, finding roles within the growth industries like infocoms or within the professional services or financial services. So I think that, into the third quarter, even though we did have a return to the phase 2 HA for July and August, I think most firms would actually look ahead to the medium-term picture and they will think that, well, with vaccination rates basically picking up and the growth recovery story basically expected to sustain into 2022 itself, in line with the roadmap that the policymakers have painted in terms of reopening up of the Singapore economy. So they may actually continue to, replace some of the workers that they have lost, especially from the non-resident side, or even be looking to do fresh hires, really to position themselves for the opportunities that may come next year.
Today's figures show that there are jobs available. What are your thoughts on who could fill these positions, whether from the local or foreigner workforce?
Well, I think if you're talking about jobs within construction or the more labor-intensive, roles within manufacturing itself, it will still be quite challenging to find local workers who are willing to take up those roles. I suppose for some of these roles, I think if there is a bit of technology that can fill the gap in the interim, that would definitely help. But for the opportunities that are in more skill-specific roles, like within ICT, for instance, or within the financial industries, then actually there is, a gap that basically retraining and also reskilling can help. The other option really would be to tap on, like retirees or housewives or even the youth who may be looking for either part-time or they are maybe willing to return to the workforce full-time. And that could actually help ease the manpower crunch a little bit for some of these sectors as well.
Right. Well, Selena, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. That was Selena Ling, Chief Economist at OCBC Bank. It's that time of the year when Apple unveils the new iPhone. Similar to last year, there are 4 iPhone 13 models expanding 5G connectivity and showing off faster chips and sharper cameras. Although there aren't any blockbuster features or products, analysts expect customers using older models like my co-presenter Haryanto Deman will be eager to upgrade, even if the new phones cost at least around $1,200. Pre-orders starting this Friday, September the 17th. Apple in Singapore was fined $1,000, so less than an iPhone, for holding a social workplace event on June 18th at its Orchard Road store, essentially breaking COVID-19 rules because enterprises allowed to operate must not physically hold social events with their employees. The Straits Times understands that more than 50 people were involved in this gathering. With Singapore's ban on ivory products kicking in this month, authorities are working with online platforms to ensure that all ivory listings are removed. Carousel and Facebook, for instance, have committed to prohibiting such content, advertisements and listings. A woman who was charged in May for harassing her neighbours has claimed that her 14-day remand at the Institute of Mental Health amounted to serious injustice. But the court disagreed and today dismissed Lim Sok Lei's petition. Lim and her husband are accused of shouting phrases like COVID spreader and virus family at their neighbours, who include a nurse at Sengkang General Hospital. For more news and videos, visit straitstimes.com and subscribe to our YouTube channel by hitting the red button below. I'm Olivia Quay. See you tomorrow on The Big Story.